Calling this public hearing on ESSA, Every Student Succeeds Act, to order at 5:30. Who's taking care of ESSA? Who's presenting?
Brandon is, but I think he's good.
Yeah, I'm gonna defer to Loretta Zavala, Director of our
Good evening.
programs.
Good evening.
So we're gonna talk today about our federal funds. We're required to have this meeting for next year's ESSA grant, so she's gonna go through that briefly with you. Answer any questions?
That is correct. In addition to being required to present this to the board, we also have to have parent public hearings. And so in May, we had 2 meetings with our parents where we discussed our federal funds and how they're spent, and then talked about the comprehensive needs assessments for each of the programs. As we are looking at applying for this grant, it will entail quite a bit of money. For Title I, we are looking at $4.5 million. In Title I, Part C, which is for migrants, it's $664,000. In Title II, it's $239,000. Title III is $347,000. I'm sorry, Title IV is $347,000. My presentation, can you pull it up? Brandon,
Do it.
the presentation, the one-pagers, and the,
They're on the board book.
Oh, is it in the board book?
They're in the board book.
They didn't get
I
printed?
kind of need to see it.
Can you log in here, Loretta?
I'm sorry?
Can you log in and pull it up?
Or send it to me.
Here, let me.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Get this straight.
We what? ESSA.
That's it.
Okay. There you go.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the breakdown of Title I funds, which is the $4.5 million, this is our anticipated use of the funds. Oh,
That's good. It'll come back.
Yeah.
okay. 83%. 83% of the funds will be used for supplemental teachers, aides, any sort of professional development and things of that nature. 12.4% are for professional development of instructional practices, curriculum alignment, curriculum writing. Less than 1% will be used for our students that attend private nonprofit schools that live within the boundaries, and those are funds we are required to spend on those students. And then greater than 1% will be for parent involvement activities. In Title I, Part C, which is for migrants, 100% of those funds are used to support the migrant students and their families to ensure their growth and achievement. For Title II, Part A, which are the funds that we use to grow our teachers and our administrators on campus, the 63% of it will be used to provide additional support for specific content and instructional practices. 25% will be used towards contracted services. 3% are for materials and supplies that are required for our professional development. 5% is for teachers and instructional personnel to attend professional development, job fairs, trainings, and other site visits. Under Title III, Part A, which is used for our limited English proficient children, we will be providing additional support personnel, which constitutes 49% of those funds. 31% of the funds will be for the development of the instructional practices, professional development, and other needed things to meet the challenges of the state assessments for these students. On Title IV, 36% will be used to provide Title I support, including parental engagement funds to assist parents in developing skills. 23% is additional support personnel to implement safe and healthy students. 23% provides for the funds of the development of instructional practices for students to improve their use of technology. And 16% provides funds for the development of instructional practices, curriculum alignment, and well-rounded education for students. And are there any questions on the ESSA grants?
So some of those funds, are they gonna help cover the positions that are gonna be coming off of that ESSER? So it's.
The
because these aren't
positions that are
gonna be
already
new ones.
in here
Yeah.
have been in there. They were never covered by ESSER.
Oh, well, okay, so.
They've been in here for, most of them, quite some time.
Like positions at campuses that we've
Yeah.
been funding or gonna get funded again. A lot of the positions in CNI that work directly with curriculum are funded from our Title II budget, Title I budgets. Yeah, the ESSER positions that we put in ESSER were mostly local, to try to help the local budget last year.
That's,
That's
yeah,
true.
that's why we're wondering if that was gonna.
Once you have a position that's funded locally, you supplant issues of using federal funds for a position that you basically say you required and needed in your local budget. So these have to be, to really deal with equity, changing the gap in instructional practices and really be focused on, the different demographics of students you have. So you can't just fund a teacher, you have to, it's more of a specialized person.
Yes.
So to answer your question, there's also 2 positions that will be coming out of Title IV. One of them is the safety coordinator, and the other one is the fine arts coordinator that works at Crewald. Any other questions?
No?
For you, sir?
Okay, is there any public comments at this time? Hearing none. We will close this meeting at 5:40, and our second public hearing is scheduled for 5:45. Right. So we have 5 minutes. We didn't put in there, or, did we? No, okay, so we're gonna wait 5 minutes for the second public. Call this public hearing on ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 funds now at 5:45.
I'd like to turn it over to the Rivers of Law, so we can update our way on ESSER 2 and 3, and proceed to time on those.
Thank you.
Good evening again. So as you may recall, back in 2020 and 2021, the USDE started giving the ESSER grant funds. And so we're here to discuss ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 and the proposed amendments for each. In total, the district will have received $14,664,000 in ESSER 2 funds. And at the end of ESSER 3, we will have received $32,945,000 in ESSER 3 funds. What I've done today is just provided for you a brief overview of the items that we would like to amend in ESSER based on the knowledge that the grants are coming to an end, and we want to make sure that we move the funds into areas where we can utilize them so we don't have any leftover funds that may need to be not received. So we receive everything that we've been allotted. In ESSER 2, and I'm only going to go over the bolded areas, those are our changes. Under learning loss, we discovered that we needed to allot a little bit more for the virtual learning opportunities that that was needed for the instructors and their benefits. So we're seeking to increase that by $8,961. For the summer programs, at the bottom there, we use these funds for summer school in 2022, and we found that we were not needing the entire amount that was allotted there, so we would like to take the remaining $2,773 and move that. The next one is the operations and continuity of services for the district. When we take funds from an account, we seek to put them in this account because this is the account that we use when we are paying substitutes, when we are providing salaries for staff, when we take our retention stipends. All of those funds come from this one account. And we're seeking to add $336,609. In targeted interventions for safe outdoor learning spaces, we found that we needed to budget another $23,000. It was a little over what we had anticipated, so they need additional funds to be able to cover the expense of that. For special programs for students in special education, including autism, we needed an additional $5,192, again, to cover the program service costs. And that is all for ESSER 2. Now, keep in mind that the reason we're moving these funds is because this is funds that were left over, and we want to put them into that one account so that we can cover retention stipends from ESSER funds as opposed to locally paying for those items, the retention stipends. In ESSER 3, the amendments here, again, what we're looking at what's in bold. Give it a second to come back on. There you go. So, in additional support at the elementary, which is what we use to cover staff, there will be $119,000 left at the end of this school year that we're seeking to move. For tutoring services, promise you I'm not touching it. There's $3,428 that is an additional funds that we are seeking to move as well. For learning loss in middle schools, for additional personnel, which is the staff that we pay from there, at the end of this current fiscal year, we will have $92,192 remaining in that account we're seeking to move. In high school learning loss, again, for support personnel, we are seeking to move $414,000 into the operations count. And for the subject opportunities and self-paced programs for the school year, we are seeking to move $65,000 from that account. Learning loss district-wide, for the textbooks that we had originally allotted for, we have $826,000 in that account we are wanting to move as well. The technology devices were a little more than what we had anticipated, so they will need an additional $5,781 to cover their expenses. In the operational costs, as I mentioned before, anytime we are taking money from any account where there's leftover, it goes into this account, which we also use to pay salaries, and we pay the retention stipend. Well, those funds will go into this account in the amount of $1,578,000. And then for CDC mitigations and safety, they're needing an additional $101 in the health services personnel. Social emotional supports, we had money provided for tranquility areas, and there is a surplus of $31,000 that we're seeking to amend out. For well-rounded education, there's $96,892 that we're seeking to amend out as well. And those are all of the amendments at this time. And as I mentioned, all of the funds that we're seeking to take out will go into the operations continuity account, where, one, we take the ones that need the overages from, that money will come from that account, but also that's where we take our retention stipend funds from.
So Loretta was showing y'all, so ESSER 2, at the end of this year, we completely spent $14 million. So on ESSER 2, the first part she's showing, we were just cleaning up where we had deficits and extra monies, but all those funds will be gone. ESSER 3, I think we're gonna have about $5 million left over, 4 or 5 million?
Closer to 4.
4, and that we'll use next year for, tonight you're gonna see in our compensation plan, do retentions next year, we would use the remaining 4 million that we have left to cover that. So we'll pretty much be done with all our ESSER funds at the end of next year, really only enough just to do those retention stipends.
So Esther's gone after.
ESSER 2 will be done this year complete, and ESSER 3 is the last year's next year, and we'll be completely done with those funds. And the goal is to spend every penny that they get. Not from there, yeah.
Okay, at this time, board, any questions? Public, any questions? Hearing none. This hearing is shut down at 5:52. We have 8 minutes to start the regular meeting, and audience is welcome to talk now. Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order on June 20th, beginning at 6 p.m. We'll begin with pledges
Yes.
and invocation.
Everybody please stand.
Oh,
Lord, come and let your wisdom fall upon us as we gather here for this meeting. Give us clarity so that we can effectively tackle each part of today's agenda. Reveal problem areas and show us the best solutions that will apply. Point our eyes to every positive outcome since our last meeting, and let those favorable results and developments encourage every heart in this room. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
amen.
I pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Okay, we're gonna go, before we go into recognitions, if it seems a little silly up here more than usual, a few of us have been here all day, listening to presentations. So it's been a long day.
And we appreciate that very much.
But
Thank
it's
you all
been
very
really
much.
good, it's been a really good day,
Yes.
and it's okay to be silly sometimes. Okay, recognitions. Dr. Ball?
Yes, we have a recognition tonight, so go ahead, Ms. Collier.
Thank you, Dr. Ball. Mr. Gonzalez, could you please help me out? The Southwest ISD Counseling Department was recently recognized in Washington, D.C. on June 8th for the National Post-Secondary Strategy Institute Power of Hope Award. The National Award recognizes two school districts that have moved school counselors into a centralized role, engaging them as data-informed leaders who are empowered with resources to help all students receive the support and experience to reach an educational credential beyond a high school diploma. Please come forward, Lindsay Allen, in for Southwest High School Principal Amanda Wagner, and Alex Villejo is still on their way. She's the coordinator of school counseling. They are going to accept the award on behalf of the district. And a big thank you, of course, to Luis Gonzalez and Alex Villejo for leading and supporting the Southwest ISD counselors. Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Great job as always.
Thank you.
Great job as always.
Thank you so much. We're very proud. Thank you.
Great job as always. Thanks, Ray.
Thank you for all you do. Thank you.
Appreciate everything you do for me. Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Irving.
Yes.
Want to bring them out? Go ahead and bring them out. Next up is the Palo Alto College Alamo Promise recognition. Over the past several years, Southwest ISD has had the chance to partner with Palo Alto on the Alamo Promise program. This program, as many of you know, allows our graduating seniors to attend Palo Alto for 6 consecutive semesters or until they obtain their associate's degree. The program covers tuition and fees for all of our qualifying students. Joining us now is Ms. Dalila Marquez, Vice President for Student Success at Palo Alto College, with more details on the Southwest ISD class of 2023 and a special recognition. Thank you.
I want to join that team.
Thank you. So good evening, Superintendent Dr. Ball, Board President, Board of Trustees, and others joining us this evening. My name is Delilah Marquez, and I currently serve as the Vice President for Student Success at Palo Alto College. I am so grateful and honored on behalf of our leadership and our college president, Dr. Robert Garza, to be here tonight to not only recognize but appreciate the Southwest ISD family. So with me tonight to do that, I have our PAC family, who is our enrollment coach, Nicholas. Longoria, our enrollment team lead, Carla Frausto, our director of enrollment, Liz Aguilar-Virial, and our dean of student success, Ms. Tyler Archer. So with this 6-foot trophies that you see in front of you, we are here to say congratulations to Southwest ISD and thank you for your continued support, not only in the partnership with Palo Alto College, but also serving students through their educational journey. So congratulations, as you heard what Alamo Promise is, right? Free tuition, that's zero cost. Zero cost to your graduating high school senior, and so thank you for entrusting Palo Alto College. Our mantra at Palo Alto is care en corazon, and so we want to thank you for entrusting us with your students to continue that educational journey and that trajectory and helping them reach that milestone that's next in their chapter. So with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to congratulating and recognizing those individuals. So for Southwest High School, for having 98% of those commitment forms of Alamo Promise. So for your high school students that are committed to attend one of the Alamo colleges. But Palo Alto College is here saying congratulations. So Dr. Ball, congratulations, Superintendent. Principal Amanda Wagner. Okay, Lindsay Allen. College advisor is Eric Estrada. Do we have a delegate for Eric? Counselor Lindsay Allen. There you go. I thought I heard the name somewhere. Okay, and do we want to go ahead and move on to include everyone? So we're going to go ahead and include all three. We have for Southwest Legacy High School for 95%, and again, Superintendent Dr. Ball, Principal Paul Black, Counselor Nicole Winslow, College Advisor Giovanna Espinoza, and moving on to Cass STEM High School for having 100%. Once again, another thank you to Dr. Ball, Superintendent, Principal Jacqueline Rodriguez, Counselor Catherine Hoffman. And I want to make one minor correction. So at the beginning, I said it was 98% for Southwest High School. It's a 92%. So you're still in the A average, right? So once again, congratulations. Again, thank you for the continued support, and we look forward to serving your students at Palo Alto College.
There's somewhere here, like maybe one right here. I don't know. I'll come back and put your name.
I hadn't seen trophies this big since I was playing in T-ball.
Okay, then we can put everybody.
Of course, they only looked that big because I was little. They didn't even have T-ball when I was little. Squeeze in, guys.
Smile. 1, 2, 3. Love it.
Anybody sign up to speak? Mona. Anybody sign up to speak?
And this concludes our recognitions. Thank you.
Thank you. And I understand nobody signed up for public comments,
No.
so we will move on to item 5, consent agenda. Board members, any questions? We've had that.
We approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Hearing no questions, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, items of information. Construction update.
No, nothing right at this point. Next month we'll have a lot more for you.
Monthly tax report. We've had that.
Yeah, we're roughly right where we were last year, so it's looking good,
Yes, it is.
like 93%.
Board members, stop me at any time with questions. Monthly financial report. Anything to add, Brendan? The investment report. Report on gifts and bequests.
We haven't gotten
I didn't get no gift. Enrollment report. Review purchases over 50,000. Assessment and accountability update. Nothing to add?
We have a presentation. Lisa Bolte is going to share some information. The accountability update is continuously changing, so it is certainly not comparing apples to apples. And we want to bring you a little highlight every month. Also for the fact that this time we will not be receiving our accountability till so much later in the fall, but Lisa will explain all of this, so I'll just turn it over to Lisa.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. President, esteemed board members. So, today I'm bringing you, as Dr. Ball said, a little overview of our A through F refresh, because we are going through some changes that TA has decided on. So our agenda today is I'm going to go over the A through F overview. I'm going to explain our cadence of presentations that we're going to go through. And then I'm actually going to bring to you our EOC preliminary results. So we're going to start with a message from our commissioner, because he has a lot to say about the refresh.
Hello, school board members. My name is Mike Morath. I'm Commissioner of Education for the state of Texas, and I am a former school board member. I served on the Dallas board for 4.5 years, and school board service is critical when you think about the role that you play in our republic. You are where the buck stops, the governing body of the local school district, and you are responsible for how well those schools work and how well we serve collectively all 5.5 million souls in Texas public schools across the state of Texas. Thank you for your work. It is hard, daunting, and the pay is pretty terrible for a school board member. So thank you for your work. One of the things that I reflect on as a former school board member, one of the responsibilities that I held, was I needed to know how well our schools were doing in Dallas. Were they the same? Were they getting better? Were they getting worse? And because it was my job to oversee our administrative team and make sure that we were making progress for kids. And so what the agency does, what TEA does to try to help improve your ability to govern your school district, is we provide A through F ratings, which then gives a summative evaluation of all of your schools. And so every year when A through F ratings come out, you can take a look at the ratings, you can then compare them to last year, and you can say, are my schools getting better? Are they about the same? Are they getting a little worse? And you can then help build action plans with your administrative team accordingly to support our kids. And what has been true for A through F for the last 5 years, since 2017, is it's been basically the same system. The cut points have been basically the same. The mechanics have been basically the same. We evaluate schools holistically on the better of student proficiency or student growth. As you all well know, evaluating students is complex. Our little humans are very complex creatures, and so trying to get a single picture of performance is difficult. But A through F does that very holistically. And the fact that it has remained unchanged since 2017 is also super helpful, because you can then look at this year's results, your teachers can look at this year's results, your parents can look at this year's results and see, is this going to be better? What kind of progress are we making for kids? It was not always like that in Texas with the school rating system. before the A through F system, the agency, the way TEA worked, would tweak the ratings every single year. That they basically raise cut scores ever so slightly any given year. And that was good in terms of setting goals that are constantly higher and helping us push forward for kids. But it made life really confusing as a school board member in Dallas in my old life, because I would have a hard time figuring out, are last year's results the same or better than this year's results? But the downside of what we've done over the last 5 years is we do want to constantly get better for kids. We want to make sure that we are setting higher and higher goals. In fact, the statute that sets up A through F requires us to continuously increase cut scores to ensure that Texas is a national leader in preparing kids for post-secondary success. So this year we are refreshing the A through F rating system. We will be using the information that we've gleaned over the last 5 years, all the feedback that we get from educators, from parents and others, to update the way the ratings work. And what that also means is that the ratings that you look at this year cannot be easily compared with last year's ratings. There's a few places where cut scores are actually changing, in some cases going up, and so it will no longer lead to an apples-to-apples comparison. So to try to make life easier for you, what we are doing is we're publishing preliminary what-if ratings using last year's data, but using the new rating system calculations. And so that way, when ratings come out this fall, you will be able to compare this year's actual rating with last year's sort of hypothetical what-if calculation ratings. And that way, you can have a good apples-to-apples comparison of performance. We're going to also put those hypothetical what-if ratings up on texasschools.gov so that when parents or teachers or anybody in the community looks to evaluate year-over-year performance, they can compare this year's performance with last year's performance using this year's metrics. And so we hope that this helps make the job that you have as a school board easier, but it's also going to be important for all of us to kind of communicate about this, make sure everybody's on the same page. So we'll be communicating more about this in the fall when ratings come out. We have provided your superintendent with hypothetical, what are preliminary what-if ratings to go over those with you, and there's a lot more details if you want to get into the mechanics of it. We have all that information on our website, provided that information in a minute. But I wanted to just talk to you directly about these changes because I knew this would be important for me as a former school board member, and hope that this is valuable for you. Thank you for your work. Thank you for the service that you do for our kids. School boards are critical to the foundation of our democracy and to highly functioning school systems. God bless you for what you do.
So as the commissioner said, periodically, he and the people that work with him at TEA review our cut scores, review our rating system, and they make adjustments to it because they want to make sure that we're utilizing a culture of growth and improvement, so that becomes very critical. They have to balance 3 things. They have to balance rigor. We need to make sure that our testing is rigorous for our children, that they're showing their level of learning. We need to make sure that it's fair, so the calculations are designed so it is mathematically possible for every school in the state of Texas to get an A, mathematically possible, and then transparent. We want to make sure that there is a website that's easy to navigate, that all parents can access and see what is going on with any school in the entire state. So they have put that in place. So what's not changing is we still are going to have three domains. We are still going to have domain, which is student achievement, domain 2, which is school progress, and domain 3, which is closing the gaps. They're still going to use the best of domain 1 or 2 for 70% of the score. They're still going to use domain 3 for 30%. But what's changing is the cut scores, and in some areas, how that raw score is calculated. They've done a lot of work on this. They've talked to many, many different groups across the state all year, tweaking and proposing and tweaking again. And they've been trying to make sure that they have everything they need to make this change and make it be a good change, because we'll have it in place for 5 years. That is the methodology that they use. So they're going to actually use 2022 as their baseline. That's their baseline capture. And so the what-if reports are taking that 2022 data and applying the new calculations to it so we can see if the new rules were in place, how would we have done, so that when we get our ratings in September, we can then see how did we do compared to 2022. Again, it's not apples to apples, so we have to use the what-if report to make that comparison. So I'll be doing a cadence of presentation. Today is the overview. Then I'm going to, in July, go over the changes, a little more specificity on the changes to the A through F system. In August, I'm going to bring to you the what-if report. And then once we get our actual ratings, I'll bring those to you. So that should be September, October, somewhere in there. So now I want to talk to you about our very preliminary EOC results for the high schools. These have not been filtered for accountability. These are raw results from our spring administration. If you have a child that's important in your life, you've noticed you didn't get scores yet for 3 through 8. Okay. And that is because of the changes that they've made to the test. They've made some significant changes, so they have to adjust those new cut scores. They added all those 2.0 type questions. They combined the reading and writing into one test. So they have to make those new cuts. Then they have to do equating. They have to equate star 1.0 to the new star 2.0. And what happens with that is we're making sure that it's the same level of learning, so that if a student took the test in 2019 and they took the 2023 test or 2022 test, they would get the same scale score. So they're adjusting the raw score so they can make sure it's the same level of learning across all the tests. So we did get very early scale scores in May for our high schools so that they could do their retesting, which they're doing this week. And then they'll have their preliminary results available for parents to view through the parent portal in late June. And then 3 through 8, we will get those results mid-August. So it's very much later than we are used to getting those. So let's look at how the high school did. So you can see we're seeing some good improvement in English 1 at most of, at the district in Southwest High School and Southwest Legacy, and in English 2 across the board. In Algebra 1, we have some gains and some losses, but they're not, most of them are not significant, with a few exceptions. Remember, we do have still 8th grade algebra happening, so that impacts our high schools. And then our biology scores, which we can see some nice gains, and our U.S. history scores. And these have not been filtered for accountability. These are our preliminary early results. And that's all I have this evening, so do you have any questions this time?
No?
How did we determine who was gonna go to summer school if we didn't know the school?
So for 3 through 8, they gave us probabilities. They
Okay.
told us who was likely to have passed, who was likely to not have passed, and then who was in what they call the zone of uncertainty. So we used that data and used other data that we had from benchmarks and common assessments and teacher input to determine who was the best candidates for summer school.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Demographic study presentation. Who's doing?
Roger, you want to can you pull up the demographic study? Tonight, we have our annual update from Brent Alexander. He's from School District Strategies. As you know, we went on a little tour and kind of drove around and saw a lot of the development that's happening. He's does a little bit more work than I do, and so he'll really help us dive into those numbers and take a look and look at projections so that we can plan for the future and know what we really need to do, especially when we're going out for bond, like how fast we need to get this elementary moving, Bob Hope, how's this gonna impact Spicewood and some of the other campuses. And so I actually printed it out for you, but I didn't have a stapler big enough to staple it all together. I tried. So it's clipped, but it's page, you got page numbers on there, so you can follow along with Brent as he's talking about this. So it's all yours, Brent.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Crisp. Board members, Dr. Ball, good to be back with you again after another year. More exciting news to share with you all tonight. A lot to cover, so let's get started. As usual, the first part of the report has our overall population and other big picture demographic items. I don't think I'm touched the podium. So the key thing here is to see that the 2020 census counted a little more than 67,000 total people living in the district, a little more than 19,000 total households. So Esri, our national data source, has updated for 2022 that the total population is around 70,000 total people in the district today. So what you see here is about 4 to 5% increase over the last 2 years. Additional information is there. I'm not going to cover it all. The big thing that I want you to know is that the Census Bureau is still working to release the household data, the individual block level data. That is supposed to come out in August. So once I have that, I will share it with you, even though it's probably about 2 years after when it's typically released. The official enrollment for the 2022-23 school year was 13,747. You can see there on the right-hand side of the chart. Great news that the enrollment did bounce back up, but as you can see, the impact that the pandemic did have on district enrollment and the district's total enrollment for this past school year does sit just below that pre-pandemic level. But it is interesting to see, Southwest ISD at just under 14,000 total enrollment, still the 7th largest in the greater San Antonio area. Recall there's about 30 districts that make up the region, so you can see all of their official enrollments on this map here. But what's really great to see is that the enrollment year over year was up 3.5%, so a 470 net growth. That's the fastest year-over-year growth that we've seen in 11 years. So you recall our enrollment projections prior to this year have been very conservative because of all of the challenges that the district has had to endure. So this is great to see, and I'm going to elaborate here in a minute on why these numbers are up. But these numbers for last year are great to see. But overall, even with that bump up, the district has averaged just under a 1% decline over the last 5 years. When you compare that last 5 years growth for all the districts in the greater San Antonio region, you can see by percentage growth, just how much Medina Valley has led the area. Bernie and Comal also, you see those highlighted in red. A lot of districts in the interior portion of the region, shaded in blue there, have lost enrollment. And you'll see that continues to be the competition with charter schools. We'll talk more about that here in a minute. But good news for the district. I'll elaborate more on that here in a minute. In the report, I've given you some of the totals for what the state is seeing as well as Region 20. You can see how both the state and the region fell back during the pandemic and how most of the enrollment as of 22-23 has recovered. This year, there were just about 5,500 K through 5 students enrolled in Southwest ISD. That's up 4.2%. That's the first year-over-year increase we've seen in K through 5 in 7 years. So that is very, very encouraging, as well as the pre-K numbers continuing to grow. They are now at a record high of 759. So high school has also grown to almost 10% over the last 5 years, and it's now at a record high at just under 4,400. We've talked about the growth wave that has been moving, the bubble that has been moving through the district over these last several years. The high school numbers are definitely a reflection of that. And you can see how that 2012-13 growth way back in the early grades has aged up and is now in the high school grades, producing record enrollment in 9th grade as well as the largest 12th grade class that the district has ever had. So Really the key thing I want to focus on tonight is what's beginning to change and accelerate or lift you all out of a flat growth pattern into faster growth moving forward is this growing numbers that we're seeing at the elementary level. So if you look there for the 2022 column highlighted in yellow, you'll see those higher numbers for the first time after several years of decline. You can see how those numbers have grown. So the bubble, the average grade size in the bubble in 8th through 12th grade is still just about 1,100. Compare that to a little more than 900 in K through 4. So there is a little bit of a gap still of about 200. So remember each year as one of those larger classes moves out, we have to drop back a little bit before we can factor in more growth. You can see how that relationship between what's exiting and what's coming into the district here on this chart. You can see how the 12th grade students, that class size has trended higher these last few years, but that gap is pretty tight. So a lot shown on this chart. If you look back into 2014-15, you have that yellow line consistently having that growth wave, that bubble moving up through, increasing, as well as the charter schools pulling off kids at the younger grades. So that caused the chart to invert. The good news is, I'll move forward past the survival rates. We're continuing to see positive signs of faster growth. The birth rate information shown on the blue line continues to increase. You can see the numbers for 2019, that 882 in blue, peaked there, but even the number that we just got this spring for 2020 at 845 is real close to that peak. So these numbers indicate that kindergarten enrollment should be approaching 900 students, where it's 855. This current year it should be approaching and surpassing 900 as we move over these next 2 to 3 years. Now the TEA does release the transfer report every spring. So obviously what you'll see here is that the competition from other districts and charter schools continues. You can see that this year they reported almost 2,800 total students live in the district but are attending elsewhere. You can see how that number has increased since the charter school expansion began about 6 to 7 years ago. Where are they going? The majority, 77%, are in charter schools led by most at the IDEA campuses, as we've talked about over these last few years. But I do want to point out that some of the neighboring districts have seen their numbers increase for students that live here in Southwest ISD. In particular, San Antonio ISD and South San Antonio have also seen, you can see how those numbers have climbed over these last 2 years. Remember that Hallsville, that is their virtual academy. These numbers have actually leveled off compared to what I'm seeing in other districts where those numbers have continued to grow. Here are the numbers for charter schools. You can see the vast majority there at IDEA and their campuses. Now the students transferring in, you all have seen more kids coming in from Northside ISD over these last few years, so these numbers have gone up a little bit and contributed to some of the enrollment growth. But before I show you the geocoding, I wanted to show you something new that we've been looking at. We've been doing an analysis of the student IDs to see student mobility. We're looking at students enrolled in K through 11 the previous year and seeing how many of those students moved up to the next year and were present in grades 1st through 12th, so we can kind of get a sense of what the turnover is looking like each year. So I went back and looked at all the numbers that we have for each spring, going back to the spring of 2017. And so you can see in blue, those are the IDs that were no longer present in the next year, and the orange columns there show the IDs that were newcomers to the district. So you can see very consistent there from 2017 to 2020, then a little bit of a fallback during the pandemic year. In 21 to 22, still a little bit more were leaving than were newcomers, and then this year, that's the first time we've seen the district move back towards what a fast growth district looks like, where there's more new coming students than exiting kids. So that net of 358 is a very encouraging sign moving forward. So I often get asked, so what grade or what do we know about those students that are coming and going? So I've given you a summary here of where those kids are by attendance level, and I've kind of grouped the elementary loss with the elementary gain in the middle of each year. You can see for middle school and for high school. So the key takeaway here is that each year, as the district had been declining, you can see that it just gradually had been more elementary kids lost than came in. And if you look on the far right-hand side of the chart, you can see for the first time you had more elementary kids come in than you lost, and to go with growth at the middle school and at the high school, which has typically been growing. So the elementary, or the decline overall for the district has been that loss in elementary kids that we've talked about over these last couple of years. So very encouraging to see that number is changing. So the geocoding also shows very encouraging information. Look at the percentages of students inside the boundary. So we had seen in April of 2018 about 13,500 students living inside the boundary. That fell all the way to 12,300 a year ago, and now that's back up to 12,854. So what this is showing is that the housing, the residential development is starting to bring kids. It's starting to change. You're still dealing with the competition from neighboring districts and charter schools. Those previous slides just showed that. But the residential development is beginning to move the district beyond any losses experienced from those outside schools. You can see the totals by elementary zone shown here on the map. I'll show you the 1 year and 5 year comparisons. You can see the areas in green are areas of growth. So where the growth has occurred over the last year is mainly in the areas there feeding into areas around Resnick and Southwest Legacy High School. And you can see the Meadow Creek Elementary Zone, quite a bit of growth there, as well as continuing to see growth up in that Solana Ridge area. And then you look at the 5 year, it highlights that the growth, where the housing growth is occurring, you all are seeing you're seeing growth overall for enrollment. We had done the comparison for each attendance zone, elementary attendance zone for K through 2. And as you look back, you can see, this chart had typically been showing declining numbers, but it's very encouraging to see the growth that has occurred over the last year and then over these last 3 to 5 years. So we're getting that K through 2 growth that's very essential to you all starting to see faster enrollment growth. The Meadow Creek growth there, very, very interesting. The Scott apartment complex, very important, brought a lot of kids into Meadow Creek attendance zone. And I'll speak more to what multifamily development is projected to do here in just a second. I'll move ahead and talk a little bit about the housing market. So, the housing market has struggled at the last 6 months of 2022 as interest rates climbed towards 7%. Most of us have heard that. So as the rate has gone up, we've seen the start rate in San Antonio, that blue line, come back down. Now, what builders have been doing is offering more incentives. So it is continued to allow people to go ahead and buy finished houses. So that's why you see that red line continue to climb to record highs. But they have pulled back on starts, so we are seeing the region slow down to 14,000, 15,000 annual starts. But for you all, that's ahead of the pace historically for the region. So it still sets up for quite a bit of growth going forward. The reason why it continues to be very positive is the job numbers for both Texas and San Antonio remain very strong. You can see here in San Antonio, over these last 2 years, we're seeing job growth that's higher than what we saw pre-COVID. So that's very encouraging as more people move to Texas and move into the region. And unemployment today in the region, 4.3 as of February. It's dropped under 4. I know that as of April and May. So all of that has continued to help drive the housing market in the region, and now you can see the numbers here in the district. So same thing occurring here where we've seen the start rate. You saw a peak in 2022, early 22. You know, as the slowdown in the fall, starts are still, they've fallen back, but historically, you all are seeing about 900 to 1,000 new homes being built every 12 months. So that's a fast pace for the area, and the developers are very encouraged about what they're building here. They've put over 1,900 lots on the ground in the district for the 12 months ending in March. So Southwest ISD's housing market is about 7th largest when you compare it to all of the districts in the region. The main subdivisions that have been producing the most houses, Cinco Lakes up there on 1604. You also have Preserve at Medina, that's the one down at Watson Road, just west of Highway 16. Medina Landing also up there in Cinco Lakes. So I'll show you more on this in a minute. It's encouraging to see, I think a year ago we talked about Crescent Hills getting off the ground. That's the one there next to, just south of Meadow Creek Elementary, and then Vita subdivision off the ground. Look, 145 homes started there over the last year. So the majority of the homes that have been built over the last year are in the Southwest Spicewood Park and Meadow Creek Elementary attendance zones. You can see the heat map. Those tie back, think back to that year-over-year comparison map where you saw those green shaded areas. Most of this feeds into Resnick as well as McNair. It's interesting to watch the changes at the high school boundary. So we've seen very little activity in the legacy zone up until these last few years, and then look, you can see it's grown to over 700 or near 700 starts per year just in the legacy high school attendance zone. The type of homes that are being built, mainly in that 200,000 and low 200,000 and up. A lot of them on smaller lots, but it's primarily that value, first-time type buyer that they're targeting. You can see on the right that the median new home prices in the region is about $329 here in the district, just under $290. So affordability, very, very important for the builders that are building here in the district. Combined, they've put all of there's nearly 2,600 vacant lots on the ground. There's over 900 homes that are developed, that are in process but not occupied yet, and then 1,600 are under development. So you combine this all, and it puts the district over 9,000 total lots in the single-family pipeline. So I've kind of highlighted the 4 main areas of building here on the map, so you can see that far southeast or east side there from around Zarzamora with Vita, and then the Highway 16 corridor, and then you have the Watson and Fisher Road corridor, that also down in the southwest portion of the Spicewood Park attendance zone. Around Meadow Creek, you still got more lots. I showed you Crescent Hills, and then D.R. Horton has a final phase of Solana Ridge at just near Sun Valley Elementary. So the single family is driving growth, but the multifamily, as I mentioned earlier, is also going to be very important. There are over 3,400 apartments that are planned, and I expect that you'll see somewhere between 2,000 and 2,500 apartments over the next 5 years. More on that here in a minute. Let's just kind of go through these photos that we got in May. So you can see some of those apartments right there, the Los Arcos ones there, it's Art Zamora, also there in the Vita development. Hunter's Pond, winding down, you can see the final lots there. You know, this is one of the subdivisions we've watched, you know, for the last decade. Applewhite Meadows, Legend Homes. And then this is over south of 410, west of 16, you know, Marbella subdivision. KB has Marbella, Los Altos, and Nets subdivision over here that they continue to work through. Some of the big producers, you can see here more lots coming for LGI and D.R. Horton at Preserve and Medina. As you move up Watson Road, you can see Habitat Humanity continues to expand their subdivision here. Just to the southwest of Resnick and Legacy High School, KB has a new position, Medina Crossing. Also, the Frontera Crossing Apartments opened this past school year, so we're waiting to see what the impact is from that development. When you look across the road or the intersection there, you can see the Bristol Somerset Apartments. Those are almost ready to open. They were supposed to open this summer. And then next to that, Mesa Vista for Century Communities. And then up in the upper left, you can, and here's a close-up of it, Lennar has Valley Soul, which is on the south side of Fisher at I-35. So there's about 500-600 lots here that Lennar will be bringing in across from the Amazon. So here's Crescent Hills. You can see Lennar as well, you know, their initial phase, and then they're working on additional lots here. And then that final piece, another 148 lots for D.R. Horton there at Solana Ridge. As you move up into the 1604 area, you can see the new apartments for Applewood Ranch that are coming, and then more of the homes there at Applewood. And then here's your top producer of new homes on the west side of 1604, Cinco Lakes in Medina Landing. And you can see they have a big panel of lots that are underway in Cinco Lakes. So several hundred more lots to go here. Another one I want you to keep in mind, there's nothing really happening just yet, although Lucky Ranch is continuing to move south. In fact, they've got a whole new group of lots that they're marketing as Lucky Ranch South. Some of it's even out of the photograph here. Here's some of the first lots. Majority are in Medina Valley ISD, but some of these are going to be in Southwest ISD. Just remember that there are future lots planned in Lucky Ranch. So all of this combined, those over 9,000 lots, I think about 5,500 of them have the potential to be built and occupied over the next 5 years. The multifamily, that 3,400, I think about 2,500 are going to be leased out over the next 5 to 6 years. And I've listed, so if you go think up by Crewald Road, you have the new Melissa Ranch ones. I showed you Bristol, I showed you Applewood. Also, the southeast corner of 16 and 410 has the Sosa Palo Alto. Those are San Antonio Housing Authority lower income ones, very high yield from those type of apartments. Those are coming, as well as there's a developer working for 800 units at Watson and at the Preserve, so we're watching those as well. What are the houses producing? The yields this year, yield overall for single family 0.52. That's up just a little bit from what we saw last year, but more in line with what we saw in 2020 and 2021. Now, when you look at the individual subdivisions, you're going to see lower yields in some of these newer developments. You're going to see 0.3s and 0.4s. That yield, from what we've seen all over the state, represents you have entry-level houses, you have competition with charter schools, you have all of that rolled up into that. That's why that's a little bit lower. The typical yield, recall, is more like a 0.6, 0.7. So it's a little bit lower because of all of those other factors. But here's the one that really jumps out to me. The apartment this past year is 0.51. So you're almost getting as many kids from enrolled kids from apartments as you're getting from single-family homes. So with all those apartments coming, they have the potential to grow you all quicker than even the single family. So think about 2,500 over 5 years at a 0.5 rate, and you're talking 1,200 kids from just multifamily development alone. So all of that residential development, the encouraging numbers that we're seeing in K through 5 have changed our forecast from where we were the last couple of years. We've gone from more of a flat to 1%, growing towards 1%, 2%, to now realistically looking at potentially a 2 to 3% annual growth rate. So you can see that if the district grows in that just the 2% annual average over these next 5 years, a net increase will be over 1,400. But there's enough development that it should be faster. It should be more in the 2.5 range and just under a net growth of over 2,000 students. So the district has the space at most of the elementaries to handle the growth, but there are 3 individual campuses that I think you all need to have on your radar. Number 1, Spicewood Park, Southwest Elementary, and Medio. Those 3 have the majority of the building, and you're going to have to address capacity at those schools. As you can see here, Spicewood, at just the moderate growth rate, in 2 years, you're going to be over functional capacity by quite a bit. So that's something I really want to emphasize tonight, is to put those 3 campuses on your radar. When you look at elementary as a whole, some of this can be possibly handled through rezoning. A new school, it's probably 10 years down the road, could be 8 years down the road, but it's something you all need to put on your radar to watch. So if you look down there in the bottom right, if we see the growth that we think we'll see here in these next 8 to 10 years. Now, middle school wise, really only Resnick is in position to go over capacity. But one thing to keep in mind is that Resnick's going to be much bigger than the other 3 campuses. So that's something to keep in mind as well as you go forwards, because so much of this growth is going to occur in the Resnick attendance zone. And then high school wise, both schools have enough capacity, especially Southwest, has enough capacity to handle the growth. And they look fairly balanced as you move out. Legacy eventually will kind of move into that more of that 6A versus 5A range currently. Now, some of this is coming off to Cass STEM, so it all depends on how much as you grow, how much does move to Cass STEM campus. So those are things that we're watching as we move forward. But as you can see tonight, there are very encouraging signs that you all have begun to move past the challenges that you've had that have lowered enrollment these last several years. All of those things are still present, as you saw, but there's enough residential development to overcome some of those losses. I'll answer any specific questions.
Members?
That's some great information, lots of it.
Thank you all. Thank you, Dr.
A lot of
McKay.
numbers. Thank you. Okay.
Get all that, Brandon?
We'll have a quiz tomorrow.
Yes.
Budget update.
Budget update. Yes, sir. Moving right along, Scott Stevens, he's going to present kind of where we are in the budget process and really talk about our compensation plan. And tonight we're going to bring a recommendation, and so we want to share that with you now before we get into our regular agenda.
That's what the update's about.
We're ready.
Ready, all right.
right, good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Dr. Ball. Tonight, I am presenting the compensation plan with a pseudo budget update as well. And so we are happy to present that tonight. Let's go. This is the base budget as presented a couple weeks ago at the brown bag, with an additional $140,000 added to the expenses. I think that's why you see the little bit higher deficit budget right there. So this is what it would be prior to having any type of raise. So stand like this, or get some foil or something. All right, so those are the people that know what an antenna is. Anyway, so this is our base budget. This was our base budget. All right. Sorry. And so as you can see, we've increased our fund balance estimate a little bit more realistic, and then we've adjusted for the deficit that we're going to be having without the raise. So let's move on to the next slide. All right, so the district is proud to recommend tonight a compensation raise of 5% increase for teachers, 5% increase for counselors, nurses, librarians, a 5% increase for professionals, and a 6% increase for the auxiliary staff, bus drivers, clerical staff, and technical staff. So, and total cost of that raise is $5.2 million. You can see on the right-hand side of the slide that they raised by each category. So that brings us to a total estimated deficit of almost $12 million with this raise. But we believe it's an investment in the future. All right, so some of the highlights of the compensation plan that we're hoping to approve later on tonight is the starting wage will now be $16 an hour for the auxiliary staff. And so I believe Southwest did do an increase earlier in the school year, and this is adding to that to get it to where it needs to be. So $16 an hour for starting is will be part of this. A bus driver raise of $1.24 an hour on their scale, and of course the teacher raise that we're very excited about is a $3,300 raise across the scale for them as well. And so just on a side note, the district does offer $375 a month towards health insurance. Looks like there's about 71% of the district staff take the health insurance, and of those 71%, 80% take the bronze plan. So the bronze plan is very popular with the staff here. So, all right, so here we go. All right, plugging in our numbers with the new teacher salary scale, you can see that we're still looking pretty good. Beginning teacher starting off 59,000 puts us pretty close to the top with some of the people that have updated their salary scales as well. So, but the best part of the compensation plan, of course, is it rewards the long-term teachers, 20 plus years. You can see we're at the top of that. And also don't forget that we're also looking to do a $2,500 incentive, so that would be on top of these numbers here. So, all right. So this is our proposed teacher pay scale in the flesh right there. You can see it all. You also have a copy of the compensation plan on at your seat, so you can look at that as well. All right. So within the compensation plan, we had a few changes made to the pay scale. So we've moved some people around in order to make it more, in order to help us, I guess, recruit staff in certain spots that are hard to fill. So we moved the social workers from the teacher scale to the counselor scale. Speech language pathologists have gone from the teacher scale to the professional scale, scale 3, and then we moved the diagnosticians to there as well. And then we moved the LSSPs up an additional scale. So, and then we've also created a separate principal and assistant principal scale to kind of help in that capacity as well. So, all right. Oh, I can go back. Got a question? Okay. All right. So here we have the principal pay scale that we are presenting tonight. And in this principal pay scale, we've seen that we've added the vice principal of the middle school as well as the vice principal of the high school. Those are two positions that are new to Southwest ISD, but they will be, I believe, an existing principal move into that slot. And then we've also gone and taken the elementary campuses and adjusted them based on their enrollment size. So we've adjusted the principal salary based on the size of the elementary campus. All right. And again, all this is in your compensation packet. All right, so some examples of salaries, so we can kind of see what's going on. We've got you can see from this slide, if you're a teacher on the new scale with the incentives, and you've got 10 years, you'll make $65,822. And it's kind of a 10-year, if you have, oh my goodness, the 20-year scale, you'd be at 70,372. So if you're a bus driver with the 0-year experience, you're just a brand new bus driver right off the streets, we start you out at $17,335 annually. So that's based on a 6% mid-scale raise. The bus driver would guarantee 5 hours a day for 187 days. And many of the bus drivers work well over the 5 hours a day. So there's athletic events, field trips, all that good stuff. So that's what we have there. All right, so the retention incentive. Earlier today, you heard Loretta talk about the availability of the ESSER funds, and so we plan on using those until they are gone. And the rest of that we will cover with their regular assigned payroll account. So we anticipate spending most of the ESSER funds to cover the winter incentive of $1,500 that we're recommending, and then the spring incentive of $1,000 that we're recommending will be paid out of their assigned payroll account. So we should be able to hit those numbers pretty good. All right, so also a big part of the compensation plan that is presented every year is the stipend amounts. Every year the stipends are sent back to the directors, and they look them over and they send back the recommendations. And so what you have here are some of the stipends that have been added and or updated. So take a second to look at those. Those are also in your packet. And the ones in your packet have highlighted what's been changed, so you can see that. All right. And now we are excited to present the ADA incentive monetary option. So this option is for any campus that increases their average daily attendance by 2% from the previous year. Every full-time campus staff member will receive a $500 incentive at the end of the year. So that's everybody, teacher, counselor, custodians, anybody on the campus, full-time staff members. So very exciting. We hope that help us out getting the ADA going. All right. Cost of that incentive, if every single school did it, would be $622,000, almost $623,000. So it's not cheap, but it's well worth it. All right. So the next steps will be to possibly approve the compensation plan tonight as presented later on in the board meeting. We also have a regular board meeting coming up in July 18th. We can also do a budget update then. July 25th, we're looking at getting our certified values, so that'll help us project our revenue a little bit more accurately as those values start to come in, and then hopefully adopt the budget in August.
Can you go back to that previous slide?
This one?
No,
There we go.
What is the floating teacher and staff member? Who's that?
So sometimes we have a teacher maybe that's been there all year for somebody that we didn't get to fill that position. So for various reasons, sometimes we have those positions, maybe we haven't filled that vacancy, so they're at the teacher of record for that time being. Sometimes they share between different campuses.
Sometimes people come onto the campus to provide service, and then they go to the next campus to provide
Oh,
service.
so it's not somebody that's there all year?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
But is it a full-time employee of the district?
It is, but they're not there, like, they may go in, provide some services one day, but not be there until the next week. So this is really for a concerted effort of that campus to really change their
Sure.
attendance.
Yeah.
And the people that are there every day working.
Okay. I just didn't know what that was.
Oh,
Questions?
Well, I want to first
Okay.
thank Scott, because him and Jerry and the team have really worked these numbers, and they had multiple scenarios. This was the highest, this was one of the largest since I've been here, raises that the district has done. And thanks to Scott and his team, they really worked the numbers and looked at it. We did talk about previously in the previous budgets, that we're coming out of COVID. We have positive things happening in our backyard with enrollment increases. And, you know, when you do a compensation plan, it does add to your budget, and those are reoccurring costs every year. But we're also in a market right now that's volatile on keeping staff, like recruiting teachers and bus drivers and being out there and paying for, you know, this kind of plan. You get quality people that want to come and are attracted to us to come work for us because of pay. And so I want to thank the team, and I believe this is a good raise.
And Brendan, I think it's important we understand that this will take us to a 12 million plus deficit, which worst case scenario will come out of our fund balance. But we would still be okay as far as a 3-month emergency fund.
Oh, yes. So we have over 6 months of reserve. And I will say that, you know, just think about a budget. You know, we're gonna give people budgets and we're gonna give people staff, and then sometimes they don't fill those. So I would say right now, we probably have 4 to 5 million in non-hired staff right now in this year's budget. So we're gonna continue to work the revenue side, because there's still a lot of things that we gotta do. Revenue, we gotta get our certified values. We still gotta look at trend data for our demographics. And I think our revenue's gonna be a little higher still. And we still can work through and look at some budgets to see where we could possibly have savings. But we're also on the other side of that, is we're finishing this year to see, like, well, how did the transportation budget end up? How did the facilities and maintenance, because the cost of things have gone up because of inflation. So we're gonna continue to work that and be bringing y'all updates as the summer goes on. But this is very strategic for us right now, because right now is when everybody's going out for hire. We normally wait, and Dr. Ball is ready, let's go now, so we're going. Because we wanna keep our people, we wanna attract, because we had a lot of vacancies this last year.
Board members, any questions?
I move.
No. Okay.
Oh, we gotta.
Sir, can we skip to item?
Finish, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Castem,
up.
are we ready to move on?
Yes.
sir.
Okay, Castem High School update.
Yes, I have a very brief presentation on this. One of the things that we've been looking at is how do we increase the numbers of CAST. You've heard lots of wonderful things that the district is doing, but CAST is another opportunity that we're having for our students. So in this presentation, you'll hear some different options, with one of the options of possibly moving to Palo Alto and our campus being housed there. So we're in the exploring stages of this possibility. So we wanted to be able to share some of this information with you. But keep in mind, this is just a talk, but we wanted for you to hear it from us, just in case it does become a reality. But we're meeting with staff on a regular basis, even every Monday, every Tuesday morning we have a meeting with the staff. We're looking at seeing the cost of this, of renting facilities, of the opportunities for our students. So we just wanted to briefly share with you some of the highlights in regards to having this as a possibility. So ladies, I will turn it over to y'all.
Thank you. Good evening, Board President, Board members, Dr. Ball. Right now, CASTEM is really looking at the opportunities that we do offer. Students can earn up to 60 hours or also earn their Core Complete or Level 1, and looking at being the premier engineering high school on the south side. As Dr. Ball mentioned, we do have 6 options, some innovative options to help with enrollment and in recruitment. So the first one is moving our current site to Palo Alto College. They have identified 2 areas for our students and our staff to be housed. Also, we have been meeting with a staff to make sure that we have a list of non-negotiables that we would like Palo Alto to meet as students are moving in, transitioning, and getting ready for the facility. Scenario 2 is part-time. We look at our upperclassmen using our 11th and 12th graders to move to Palo Alto 2 days out of the week. What I didn't mention in scenario 1 is we're looking at either an August start to fully move our campus or our January 2024 site. But definitely having focus groups with our families to make sure that we get their input, their voice, as we are looking at these different scenarios. Scenario 3 is looking at a year to really look at a multi-institution design team to really help with the move to Palo Alto. And we're looking at a summer 2024 move-in date. At this time, during that time, we'll be looking at exploring potentially adding some middle school grades to CAS STEM. Scenario 4 deals with also the year-long, doing a multi-institution design team for a year-long plan, but then also looking at potentially an 1882 Texas partnership with CAST as being the provider for the partnership. Scenario 5 would be to do something similar. Instead of moving to Palo Alto, we would be looking at Texas A&M University San Antonio and also looking at a new building. Students can also take classes at Palo Alto, but we are limited to 15 hours if they will be receiving their degree from Texas A&M University. And then scenario 6 is really looking at remaining at our current building, but potentially using our facility, our bond dollars to help renovate if the board does approve. And also looking to add 8th grade to CAS STEM. Right now, this is just the proposed cost lease. We're still working, negotiating to make sure that all our needs are met, and also looking at our budget to make sure it's within our budget. And potentially, again, outlining just the bond dollars, potentially 1882 if that option is chosen, and then also adding a bibliotech site to CAS STEM.
Thank you. So as Ms. Aragón mentioned, some of the non-negotiables that we would like to consider are having a dedicated staff, CAS STEM branded entrance and signage, especially for our families who will be visiting our campus. Making sure we have sufficient classroom and offices to completely relocate. Access and ability to use important shared spaces such as the theater, CTE building, and social services. Access to use the technology and AV equipment in the theater. Indoor space that can accommodate lunch and lunches during inclement weather. An indoor storage space for some of our, that we currently have that we can move over there. A new Texas A&M teaching room at PAC, similar to the one that we already have at our campus. Sufficient office space, including a private space for counseling, SEL, and guidance. And of course, sufficient parking for staff visitors to include parents and industry partners with easy access to our campus. Some of the transportation non-negotiables that we want to consider are a dedicated location for drop-off and pickup for our buses, the use of Via Link for small groups of students to attend athletics or extracurricular activities at multiple high schools, and a pickup basic, our current locations to help those are out-of-district students. Some additional non-negotiables, a low-cost lease agreement for up to 100 years, extended lease agreement that can accommodate up to 600 students over the next 5 years and support that we continue to have high school teachers offering our dual credit courses. So as far as support, we're looking for nearby space to incubate possibly our middle school grades, looking at a CAS STEM annex, a landing spot for students in Southwest ISD, a commitment that enrollment might dip before stabilizing and increasing. So we know that, as we talk to families, as they consider their options, we might lose a few who, because of, different reasons, but in order to gain those as we move to the college campus. And a commitment to utilize bond money. We have $13 million either for renovation of classrooms or the nearby annex.
So we did start our initial weekly cadence on June 12th to meet with our Palo Alto staff to discuss the support structure. We did visit a similar model here in San Antonio to see how they ran their partnership. Also, tomorrow, Palo Alto would be on site at CAS STEM to come and look at the facilities to see how they can help, look at the labs to see what our needs are, and if the labs could be utilized at Palo Alto to make sure that the AMT lab that is at CAS STEM definitely has the same materials and same resources that our labs have here. We want to make sure our students have the best resources, so we want to make sure that they come in and visit and then provide us some feedback.
So some additional questions. Will the college be flexible when students need to miss class or excursions or SAT testing? So how lenient will they be on unexcused college absences? The possibility of the district building its own building co-located with Texas A&M San Antonio and a low-cost lease. And that's because right now Palo Alto is not in our school district, Texas A&M is in our district. Access to college advising, flexibility and priority around shared space, again going back to the theater and the gym, and opportunities to partner around summer programming, including summer STEM camps for middle school students and additional college or CTE courses for our high school students.
So right now, that's it. Well, of course, we'll take questions. We always would, but we just wanted to give you some of the items that we're working on right now. We're going to continue to work on this July 18th at our next board meeting. We'll update the board, but we're working very closely with all the Palo Alto staff, also with Jean Russell, and of course, our staff here to make the best decision for our students and for our district. And that's all we have, sir. from board.
Questions, board members? You have any questions? No? Thank you, Jackie. Thank you. Okay. Item 7A, consider approval of 2022-2023 application for low attendance day waiver.
I have that one. So, the school district annually is allowed to apply for a waiver for any days in which a campus or the district has low attendance. There's many different factors that can cause that. A lot of it happens to be weather related. We all think of the big freeze that happened a couple of years ago, things of that nature. But there are also some other circumstances like emergencies that happen or things that happen nationally that cause people to want to keep their kids at home. So this year we have the 5 that are listed for you, one for each campus. You'll see that 3 of them were weather related. That was a blackout. And so people didn't send their kids to school because the school didn't have power. Also, so those, you could tell that they were all in the central same area. The other one was for an elementary school, which was a safety that was actually outside of our campus area that actually just had us help our community get their kids back while that was still happening outside in the community. And the last one was another safety, and that's more of a threat that happens on social media, but there was nothing that happened on campus. And so anytime that it's more than 10%, we want to go ahead and apply for this waiver so that it doesn't hurt us in our ADA calculations for the year. So we are applying for this waiver.
Questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I move. I second.
We have a motion, a second, the board approved 2022-2023 application for low attendance day waiver. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Consider approval of 22-23 application for pregnancy-related services on campus waiver.
This is also a waiver. This waiver we actually apply for every 3 years. So you'll see it this year, you won't see it again for a couple of years. Basically, compulsory education homebound instruction, or CEHI, allows students that are going through school-age parenting program to have the programs here in district on site. So we have PCI that has a daycare for their children so that they're allowed to attend school, and parenting classes in our facility. So this allows us the opportunity not to have to just drive to their house to provide services, but to provide them additional support through our school-age parenting program here. And this waiver will go for the next 3 years.
Thank you.
I move. A second.
We have a motion and a second that the board approve the 22-23 application for pregnancy-related services on campus waiver. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Consider approval to extend school-age parent program days for the new summer work program.
We have a wonderful homebound teacher, Julie Slothour. She's been in district for a very long time. And she came to us with a new program that she would like to see, because our district allows the opportunity for school-age students or recent graduates to work here to get their soft skills before they have to go out and work in other jobs around the area. The one thing that we haven't done is actually approach students that are in the school-age parenting program. Students that have children or who are parents at this time. So her recommendation was for her to start this program. We would ensure that all students that apply, either the mother or the father, would be eligible to graduate on time, meaning that they didn't have to do summer classes to make sure that they were graduation ready or they needed an EOC. Those academic needs happen first. But for those who are on track, who are ready to graduate on time and who meet the criteria to be employed, would be able to have the opportunity to work through the summer through July, have the CPI work with their children and have a place for their child, and allow them to develop those soft skills that they'll need and an employment history so that they're employable afterwards. For this, Julie would work extended days. She's on a teacher contract. She would be on a 216 instead of a 187, but she would oversee this program and ensure that she meets up with them, checks in with the supervisors, and make sure that these soft skills and these work-related habits are ready to produce citizens who are ready to take the workforce.
We have a recommendation that the board approve to extend the school-age parent program days for the new summer work program.
I move.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you. Business and Finance. Consider approval of 2023-2024 compensation plan.
I got trouble.
We did, that's the presentation.
Yes, we're just asking the board to approve the 23-24
I move.
compensation plan.
James seconds.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second that the board approve the 23-24 compensation plan as presented. Any questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item B, consider approval of an order authorizing the issuance, sale, and delivery of the Southwest Independent School District unlimited tax school building bonds in one or more series at one or more times, levying a continuing direct annual ad valorem tax for the payment of the bonds, authorizing an authorized representative to approve the amounts, interest rates, prices, and terms thereof, and certain other agreements, procedures and provisions related thereto, and approving other matters incident and related thereto.
Yes, sir. So this is a parameter sale that was presented at the Brown Bag for us to go out and sell some bonds. We got Ryan Cunningham from Sanco here. You don't have to present anything, I was just pointing you out here. And then we got Humberto and Juan Aguilera from Escamilla Pond, our bond council. They prepared all our documents. So really tonight, we're recommending that the board approve and give authorization for a parameter sale. And there's a lot to sign.
That is what Mark presented to us the other day.
Yes,
correct?
this is, but this one's for, there's two of them, so this one's gonna be for the actual 2023 bond sale of $200 million.
I move.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions, board members? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay. Item C, consider approval of an order authorizing the issuance, sale, and delivery of Southwest Independent School District unlimited tax refunding bonds in one or more series, levying a continuing direct annual and valorem tax for the payment of the bonds, authorizing an authorized representative to approve the amounts, interest rates, prices and terms thereof, and certain other agreements, procedures, and provisions related thereto, and improving other matters incident and related thereto.
Yes, sir, so this is similar to the bond, so this is to do a refunding of some bonds, giving the district the authority to go in the market when it's time. This will be closer to October, and so we're recommending that the Board of Trustees adopt an order authorizing the issuance of Southwest Independent School District Unlimited Tax Refunding Bond, Series 2020.
I move.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Let's see. Item D, consider approval of a waiver of penalty and interest on tax account number 14552-025-0080.
Yes, sir. The Board of Trustees of Southwest ISD shall waive penalties when Bexar County Appraisal District reaches out and says they may have made a mistake. So this taxpayer actually did not meet the timeline to pay their taxes. So they're asking for a refunding, and Bexar County Appraisal District reached out and said that the mistake would happen, and they would like for us to reimburse the taxpayer. So recommended that the board approve the waiver of penalty and interest on this tax account.
I move.
We have a motion and a second. Questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Item E, consider approval of construction delivery method for the new central administration building project.
Yes, sir. We're gonna have Thomas present this topic.
Yes, sir. So, as y'all know, RVK Architects is working on the visioning and the schematic design currently for the new central office, the new central administration building project. So, RVK and district staff have gotten together and discussed the project delivery method. The recommendation from staff and RVK Architecture is that we move forward with construction manager at risk delivery method. Several reasons behind that. There are active campuses here on site that we'd have to work around and phase around. Not to mention there's a demolition phase, a building phase, and potentially a third phase of demolition once the building's built. There are a lot of utilities that are routed through and near the construction site that we would have to get into with the general contractor prior to the demolition phase. And then the project can also be phased in order to buy and procure materials that currently have long lead items like the main distribution panels and the transformers that we're seeing the problem with. So in addition, we've put the scoring rubric there for the CM at risk. RVK has put together the RFP for this. So that is the district staff recommendation that the board approve construction manager at risk method as a delivery method for the new central administration building project. That is an estimate, approximate of $25 million and will be funded by the 2023 bond.
I move. I second.
We have a motion and a second that the board approve construction manager at risk method as a delivery method for the new central administration building project. Questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Thomas. Okay, page 2. Consider approval of purchase of school supply packs.
Yes, sir. At the brown bag, we brought an item for the board to purchase elementary school supplies. And after the board approved it, we went back and Head Start. We were under the assumption that all pre-K schools get free school supplies. Our Head Start classrooms do, but we have a lot of other classrooms that the district do pre-K for SA through our own budget, early childhood, that we fund. And so we wanted to come back and buy pre-K supplies for those classrooms. And also, at the same time, we had a recommendation to add school supplies for all our middle school students. And so tonight, we're asking the board to approve the purchase of 3,758 school supply kits for our pre-K kids and our 6th through 8th grade at a cost of about $147,427. This is an item that would be funded from fund balance, and so that is the recommendation to the board to approve the
I
purchase.
move.
We have a motion and a second. The board approved the purchase of school supply packs from Educational Products Incorporated. Questions?
How much does that work out for our students?
Each kit was $16 a piece or something like that, 16 to 20.
If I understand this correctly, now pre-K through 8th grade will not have to bring supplies. Wow, that's
That
awesome.
includes the tissue box and the wipes and the Ziplocs?
I thought it was pre-K and then 6 through 8.
Well, we are, because you've
We
already
already
approved K
approved
through
that
5.
much.
Oh, okay, that's right, you did.
Does that include all those extra things
I can
that we
pull it,
asked for?
see what,
If I remember correctly, Delita said
everything
the
that we put
entire list that we put out.
Okay.
Wow.
So does that mean the teachers will not be asking for anything else?
They should not be. They should not be.
How many total are we looking at?
But with-
Again?
This order would be an additional 3,700, which we already, I think the other was like 4,300.
43, so.
Okay.
Any other questions? We do have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Consider approval of ESSA Consolidated Federal Grant Application.
The recommendation to the board is to approve the ESSA Consolidated Federal Grant Application as presented tonight during the public hearing.
I move.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, consider approval of ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 federal grant amendments.
Yes, sir. District staff is recommending that the board approve ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 federal grant amendment as presented at the public hearing.
I move.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, item I, we're going to table due to an unforeseen event. Item 9A, consider approval of 2023-2024 secondary new courses. Who's got this, Dr. Ball?
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Who has this item?
Oh, Celine does.
Celine. Hi, Celine. Hi, welcome back. 256.
So we did want to bring this to you earlier in the winter semester. However, we had the State Board of Education that was making some changes to one of the middle school courses. So it went through some course name changes, so we wanted to make sure we had the latest information to provide to the board and Dr. Ball before it was approved. But we do have 5 courses to ask for approval. 3 are high school courses and the other 2 are middle school courses. We do have our English Language Development and Acquisition, which we have our acronym ELDA course, which is really providing the language support in the 4 domains for our juniors and seniors who may come in, who are recent immigrants. So we would like to provide this course to provide them more support. We do have our cybersecurity course for our early college, high school, and our non-ECHS. This is a new course that is being offered to them. We do have team sports officiating. Once the students complete this course, they get to register with the Texas Associations of the sporting organization. And so they have an opportunity to become actual officials. So the high school students do have to complete some prerequisites, join the chapter in order before they become actual officials out on the field. So definitely there is a need for them, and so this course would definitely help our high school students complete and become officials. And then we do have our new career in college exploration that will take the place of our PACS class, our Pathways to Academic Success. in middle school, and then phase out investigating careers at 6th grade and 7th grade. And then we do have a music appreciation course for our middle school students to help them support as they're getting to high school. It would provide another elective opportunity for our students. So definitely next year you will have this list in January, but TEA and State Board of Education went through some changes, so we wanted to provide the latest information to you. So we are asking approval of these 5 new courses.
Thank you.
I move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions, board members? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, Celine. Consider approval of purchase of instructional materials for the English Language Development and Acquisition course. Elda. That's you,
Yes, sir.
Celine.
So to support the English Language Development and Acquisition course, we are asking for approval of $11,000 to buy resources for our students. The resources were vetted through a student panel and also teachers to make sure that we were providing the best resources for our students who would be taking the course. So we are asking approval to use local funds and instructional materials allotment up to $11,000.
I move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Board members, questions? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Same. Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Celine. Okay. Before we go into closed session, do we have your one item?
Yes, I do. I'd really like to thank the board and of course Scott and Brandon, because what we're doing for our staff I know means a lot. As you know, prices have gone up, everything is more costly. I know that they will appreciate that, and certainly Southwest ISD has some amazing people in this system. So I want to thank the board for approving this raise, because I know it's not easy to go into fund balance, but I know that once the staff hears about this, they'll be very excited. Then I'd also like to just remind everybody that we've got an invitation for our fine arts events that are coming up next week. So I just wanted to share that, and then just remind the board again that we will be closed the 4th of July week.
Okay. As permitted by sections 551.001 through 551.146 of the Texas Government Code, the Opens Meetings Law, we will now go into closed session at 7:37. We come back at 8:25. Item 10. Oh, actually, we go back. Okay. Yes, item 10. Yes, go ahead.
I move that we approve the superintendent's recommendation on personnel.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Anyone have one last item?
I do.
Member? You do.
I'd like to recognize Ms. Flo Bernal, because on Friday night she is graduating from the Leadership TASB program. So I'd like to congratulate her for all her hard work and for making our district shine. Thank you so much for being in that program.
And I would like to say that it's been 20 years since this district had a graduate of Leadership TASB. 20 years. Don't tell everybody how old I am.
And I'd like to
No,
say
no.
that hopefully it won't take 20 years for her to be the president for TASB, because we would love that.
That's on our agenda.
Yes.
Okay. No more things? 8:26.